Hi, this is Shane Willis from astrongpurpose.com. I'm going to take you back to that course I was teaching on loans, and now we're going to talk about how they were structured. And I'm going to bring up the one loan that got a lot of bad press during the bust, why it was created, and why it got a bad name. Stay tuned. All right, and why is that so important? Well, that's one of the ways we structure loans. When we structure them, we look at debt-to-income ratio, and the higher the debt-to-income ratio is, the higher interest rates you pay. Let's start looking at your traditional loans, because debt-to-income ratio is basing it off of your payment for the new house that you're buying now, or for the house you're refinancing now. So let's, you go out and find a debt-to-income ratio right now of 38, but you don't have a house payment, you're probably not going to qualify for a loan. Because they're going to count that new house payment, both the principal, the interest, the taxes, and insurance, against you. And now you're going to have a 50 or 60 or 70% debt-to-income ratio, and they're not going to qualify you. So we did in the past at 60%, no problem. Now, not so much. But let's look at payment structures and how those are calculated and how those were calculated. We have your standard one. What's your standard loan calculation? This is principal and interest. Meaning, you go out and get a standard 30-year loan or 15-year loan or 20-year loan. Then we're going to calculate out, okay, if you make principal and interest payments every month, it's the same one every month, then at the end, all the interest is going to be paid and the principal is going to be paid off. And you're making both a principal and interest payment every single month. That is your standard, and that was still around in the heyday. A lot of people just didn't do it because they didn't want to. They didn't want to pay it off. They wanted to keep that money every month in their pocket. So what was the next one? The next one was interest only. This was extremely popular. So all you had to do was pay the interest. These were usually ARMs, or adjustable rate mortgages, which means we would either have a 3, 5, 7, or 10, sometimes even 2 years that it was an ARM. So it was adjustable rate, but it would stay fixed for those 2, 3, 5, however many years we structured it. Then it would become adjustable after that. And it would be based off the LIBOR, which is over in London. Don't even ask me how to calculate that. Plus a certain percentage that was all in the loan documents. But you're paying interest only during this term. Afterwards, so if you had a 3-year interest only term, then you had 27 years at an adjustable rate where you're paying principal and interest. So your payment's going to jump drastically, and that's what a lot of people got, and that's what a lot of things caused this crash, because all of a sudden people were looking at an interest-only payment, then their payment not only went to principal and interest, raising the payment, but now we've shortened the term, 27 years, and the rate went from that teaser rate of 5 to 9.9. And we wonder why we had a foreclosure crisis. They had 60% debt-to-income ratio before at the 5% and interest only. Now we're at 9.9 principal interest for 27 years instead of 30. It's not working. That's what caused a lot of our problems. Now what these were built for were short-term. They were supposed to be built as ARMs that just held out for 3 years, then you refinanced. Because again, remember, we all should know real estate always goes up. So our interest-only payment was a standard practice in the early 2000s. Now, there was another way to get this done. You could do principal and interest, but you could do a 40-year term. Or get this, and I saw this in some of the California properties, 50-year term. Which means now, when we build the payment structure, we're building it over 50 years, which obviously lowers the payment, so we can get our debt-to-income ratio down and qualify for the loan. So we go out 50 years. But here was the kicker. They never were really 50-year loans. They were just amortized over 50 years. Instead, they ballooned in 30. Meaning you still had 20 years left to make your payments, but it's all due now. Because the average person holds a mortgage note about 5 to 7 years. Then they refinance it. So nobody was holding it 30 years, so they just built it as a 50-year term so you can get under the debt-to-income ratio requirements of whoever buying the loans. Then we balloon it in 30, and we're done. Well, that was another way that people got around stuff and kind of got in trouble. Because a lot of these were the same thing. They were 50 years, principal and interest, but they were ARMs, meaning that they're only going to be for 3, 5, 7 years, then they're going to do that jump. And that jump is what really hurt us. That's where people were just not prepared.